It's July 1981, Yosemite National Park, 9,000 feet in elevation. A 14-year-old girl named Stacy Arras is on a horseback trip with her father and a small group. They reach the camp. She grabs her camera and says, "Hey, I'm going to go down and take a photograph of the lake," and walks down towards the tree line in full broad daylight within the sight of the group. She steps behind the trees and she's never seen again. 9 days, 100 searchers, helicopters, dogs, volunteers, and they find exactly one thing: the lens from her camera. Stacy's just one case. There are hundreds like her. People who walk into American wilderness and vanish. Not sloppy hikers, of course there is that too. Not the unprepared, of course there is that too. Often the careful ones. Often in the space of just a few minutes, a few hundred yards from other people. So today, I'm going to show you a pattern, and I'll show you why one former detective thinks the government is hiding it. And I'll show you exactly where his story stops being provable and where I sort of kind of jump off. Almost everything the public knows about this pattern that's been published and been put out there traces back to one man, David Paulides. And I'm going to be straight with you about him because you deserve to know. Paulides is a real former cop. 20 years, San Jose police, including their SWAT team. He has degrees from University of San Francisco. He compiled these cases into self-published book series called Missing 411. And more recently, he's talked about them in all sorts of podcasts. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, etc. And here's the other half. And before this, Paulides researched Bigfoot, seriously, for years. And his books are self-published, not peer-reviewed. And skeptics argue that when you look at the raw numbers, disappearances in enormous wilderness areas like national parks, Yosemite, Yellowstone, aren't actually that unusual. So take him as what he is. He's a trained investigator with a real eye for pattern. He's a man with beliefs that run a little bit into fringe, but that's okay. And keep both these things in your head, because I will. Because the pattern he found is genuinely strange. When Paulides lined up hundreds of these cases, not just a few, he says the same details keep repeating. This is part that really kind of got under my skin a little bit. One, the point of separation. It almost never happens when people are together. It happens in the minute someone is alone, like the hunter who splits off, the kid who walks down to the lake to take a picture, etc. Two, the dogs. Tracking dogs that won't take the scent or track a short way and quit. Handlers say they've never seen dogs behave like that. Three, the terrain. So bodies found in areas already searched, sometimes searched repeatedly by grid with dogs. Four, water and boulder fields. The disappearances cluster near them. Five, the clothing. People found, or last known, with shoes and clothing removed, sometimes folded, in weather where that makes no sense at all. And any one of these on its own is nothing, just like a coincidence. It's repetition across hundreds of cases that make people like Paulides say, hey, something here doesn't really add up. I agree. So let's test the pattern against Stacy Arras, the girl who went missing. Because her case is real, it's documented, and I pulled the actual records. She checks the boxes. Point of separation, check. She walked ahead of the elderly person she was with. 2, she sat down to rest. 3, she went on alone. 4, vanished in minutes. The search was enormous. The 1981 papers confirmed it. Over 100 people at its peak. Dog teams, climbers, even divers for the lake. 40 plus hours of helicopter time. They found the camera lens and nothing else. No body, no clothing, no drag marks. And the dogs? Well, the newspaper from 1981 says it plainly. The dog teams were unable to pick up any scent because of dry and dusty conditions. Now, is that the mundane answer or is it the pattern? Because the dogs couldn't track is exactly box number 2. That's the thing about this whole story. It's every creepy detail has an ordinary explanation sitting right next to it. But here's where it stops being a ghost story and starts being something I can actually document for you. And it's not about aliens or weird disappearances. It's about something as simple as paperwork. So Paulides says that when he asked the National Park Service for the Arras investigation file, so this is a 40-plus-year-old cold case, he was denied. He applied or appealed, and he was denied again. And it gets stranger. So he says when he asked the Department of Interior for a simple list of people missing across the entire United States National Park system, they told him no such list exists. Well, so he asked if they would compile one, and they said, well, we would do it for a price. We'll do it for $1.4 million. And that's for the whole system. For Yosemite, $34,000. Okay, so Paulides said, well, forget that. So he spent 2 years building his own Yosemite list from scratch. And here's a detail I find very hard to explain away. The year after he finished, the Park Service then released their own Yosemite list. Just, I guess they had it laying around. The one they said they would cost 34 grand. The one they implied didn't exist. So to this day, Paulides says that there's still no released list for the entire park system for Yosemite and all the other parks. So why is a list this hard to get? So there's one more piece of this, and it's really the strangest part of the quote paperwork. When these cases get withheld, Paulides found that the government cites something called Exemption 7A. So in plain English, 7A lets the government withhold law enforcement records if releasing them could interfere with an ongoing investigation. All right, makes sense. Ongoing. So, but a disappearance from the 1980s? Now, here's the honest read on this, both directions. On one hand, calling a 40-year-old missing persons case an active law enforcement matter when no one's touched it in decades is a little bizarre and suspect. On the other hand, I guess I have to say this, foul play not ruled out was in the Arras file from 1981, and a possible crime case technically never closes. That's the boring reason old files stay sealed, I guess. Cover-up, or just the ordinary machinery of an unsolved case, might be a crime? I genuinely don't know, but I do know which one Paulides believes. And this is the part that keeps me from just writing it off as all bureaucracy or red tape or whatever. If it were only laziness or unfunded parks or overworked staff or nobody wanting to dig up old files, whatever, you'd expect that the doors of government to eventually open up, a congressman asks, or the agency just shrugs and hands it over, or whatever. There's nothing to hide. That's not the deal here. Paulides says that he actually got a member of Congress interested, that the congressional office contacted the Department of Interior, and Interior said that they would follow up, and then nothing. Everything went silent. Calls not returned. Well, okay, let's just say maybe that's government just being government. Slow, indifferent, allergic to extra work. Or maybe there's a reason why a list of people who vanished on federal land is the one document no one wants to produce. That's the real mystery here. It's not what took these people or where they went. It's why no one will tell you how many are missing. Now, in full disclosure, I owe you the other half of Paulides because I promised I'd tell you where I kind of don't go the whole way with him. So Paulides himself doesn't say aliens in his book. He's careful. He lays out facts and lets you decide. But push him, like what happened on some podcasts or like Joe Rogan did, and he goes somewhere specific. He talks about victims with no memory, talks about abduction, not by people, but by something else. He tells a story about a hunter who says he was taken aboard a craft and came back cured of all his illnesses. He connects it to Bigfoot, to Skinwalker Ranch, to interdimensional portals. And here's where I kind of get off the bus a little bit. I have no evidence for any of that. Neither does he. Not the kind that would hold up, but those are his beliefs, and a man can find a real strange pattern and still reach past what anyone can prove, even when he tries to explain it. So I'm setting the spacecraft down right here because the honest mystery doesn't really need them to be a part of this whole thing. So strip away everything I can't prove. And here's what's left. And it's still very, very unsettling. People really do vanish in these parks, sometimes in minutes, sometimes feet away from safety, sometimes in places searched over and over. Stacy Arras really did walk behind a stand of trees in front of witnesses and disappeared without a trace. So the conventional explanations are real too. Brutal terrain, predators, the sheer size of the wilderness, dogs defeated by dry ground. But the thing I can't seem to shake isn't any single case. It's that the agency in charge of all that land won't give a straight count of how many people it's lost. It won't release the files. It won't even admit that a list exists until you build it for yourself. This is crazy. So, you don't need a spaceship for all this to be disturbing to you. And underneath the pattern and the paperwork and the theories, there's real families here. There's a father who watched his daughter walk toward a lake and never came back up the hill. There are parents who died still waiting. People who don't get a grave or an answer or closure or an end. Just a case number in a file that no one is allowed to read. It's crazy. Whatever took these people, a cliff, a predator, the cold, or something we don't have a word for, the cruelest part is the silence that comes after. The searches that stop after 10 days and the doors that close. These people deserve better than just a sealed file. If you want to go deeper, David Paulides has laid these cases out in the Missing 411 series. Read it, and this is a real investigator's pattern mixed with beliefs you're free to accept or reject. And I'll put the link to his books below. Take the cases and weigh the theories for yourself. And if you've ever been to one of these parks, or you've ever hiked in one of these parks, you already feel kind of what this is all about. How fast the trees can close up behind you when you step off the trail, just how alone you are. Then you tell me. There are hundreds of missing people on federal lands and in federal parks. Why won't they release this list? Put in the comments, go. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you with the next WTF News Report. Goodbye.